Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 2 of the Riggies podcast. Got a very special guest today, Adrian Rodriguez, founder of Truckbays. His booking platform and management software has fundamentally changed the way that we operate our lots. We're far more efficient. Revenue has seen a positive increase, and that's kind of the tip of it. We're kind of limited on time today. He's an avid fisherman. We'll probably save that 3-hour podcast for another day, but today we'll talk about Truckbays, truck parking, and kind of how he got started.
Awesome, Dave. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the Riggies team having me and supporting me from the very beginning.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So let's kind of go way back, like backstory. I mean, you're in Miami. You grew up in Miami, yep. So kind of kick things off there.
Cool. Born and raised in Miami, Cuban and Venezuelan. So we have, if you talk to a Cuban person or a Venezuelan person, you'll hear this word a lot. Communism on both sides. You know, you come back from these bad countries and you want a better future. So yeah. Born and raised in Miami. Graduated high school, didn't want to go to high school. My uncle was building a parking lot, which back then had no use, and he saw use in it, truck parking lot. So he started building the lot, had bought the land years ago.
When did you buy it? When was this?
He bought the land in 1993, before I was even born.
Okay.
So he was already a businessman. He owned some real estate before that. He had gotten here in the 70s, did well. He bought the land in 93 probably for like $30,000 an acre. Jeez. Or even less than that. It was like $30,000 for the first 10 acres.
Jeez. Now it's like, what, over $1 million an acre?
Over $1 million an acre, yeah.
Wow. Okay, go ahead.
Then he started with 10 acres, just filling it in. One of his buddies was a trucker. He's the one that actually gave him the idea. He should probably reserve a commission from that. Yeah. But he started building the lot. Got out of high school. I didn't want to do any college. He said, come work with me. So started working with there, just taking calls from truckers, helping people get them in their spots. We didn't have assigned parking. It was just a dirt lot. We would do the paperwork, just the lease we would make up, and I'll help collect payments, just whatever it was back then. I think it was like $150 for a truck and trailer spot. And I think $75 for a bobtail spot.
Jeez.
So I would pretty much help him do everything. In the beginning, it was easy because there wasn't that many trucks, and I was getting paid for like 16 years old for doing, family work.
Yeah.
But then he saw the vision. He saw there was more demand, more people were coming around. So he started buying all the acres around. And then people saw the sellers are like, oh, he's buying all these acres up. They started increasing the prices. I think the last acre he bought, he paid like $150,000 an acre, which is still great, but it was expensive.
Far cry from what it is now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you look back, hindsight's 2020. He thought it was like absurd paying $150,000 when he was paying 30, but yeah, he did a good deal on it. So he pretty much assembled 55 acres of just raw lands, and we started filling it. Since when I was 16 years old, when I started there, we started filling it. I was on a bobcat, bulldozer, excavator, whatever we needed to do. We were moving dirt around, demucking, bringing in fill from the local quarry. We started, one of the things we did was very different from the very beginning from everybody was we started using asphalt. We got dirt cheap asphalt from a local guy, just whatever was left over from a job. He didn't want to take it back. Didn't want to pay to throw it away. So we're like, yeah, just throw it on here, And then the truckers loved it. No dust.
Oh, yeah, dust. That's a huge...
Dust was the first
thing. Those guys can't stand dust. Yeah,
especially having like a beautiful Peterbilt. You're like, I want to get my dusty Peterbilt.
Well, yeah, it costs you $100 just to wash it.
Oh, yeah, easily.
And then you come back on a Monday and it's covered in dust. It's
easily.
Money down the drain, Yeah.
So asphalt went on. That was probably when I was 18. So 2 years down, we started getting asphalt down. And it was maybe 10 acres, 15 acres full of truck parking. Mm-hmm. And we were full. Wow. So it was always like we saw there was a business there. And I saw growth. I'm like, well, this is a family business. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I didn't go to college. I didn't get anything done. So I gotta stick to this. This is what I know. So it grew and grew. I think by the time he started taking on some debt to be able to grow it bigger than it was and whatever the money was coming in, that's when he said, all right, let's just really get this into high gear. So just threw down all the asphalt, filled everything up. We started accumulating fill as much as we can. That was cheap before. So we had a mountain full of fill for like 2 years to come. We started filling everything up. We finally got to the 55 acres, finally asphalted everything. By that time, we were already doing striping, numbering. We learned a lot in the very begining where sometimes the customers wouldn't park where they're supposed to or take more spots than they're supposed to.
They still don't park where they're supposed to.
Yeah, exactly.
It still happens.
Yeah. I mean, when you're tired on the road, what do you expect?
I know. Yeah. No, I get it.
I mean, it's annoying when you're the manager, but when you're a driver, you're just like, man, I just want to get home.
I know.
Yep. So when I was a kid, I saw really early on like how stressful and how unappreciated people are of the trucker, right?
Yeah.
Like the shirt you wear, like the like this, everything we have in here.
The mic, the table.
Yeah, everything came from
man.
a trucker that was delivered to
Yeah.
to the storefront, whatever it was. So for us, like my relationship with the drivers was always like, let me help you out, whatever I could do, you know. Hey, I can't pay this month, or hey, you know, I'll pay you next week. You know, I got a load delivered, but broker's not paying me till the next week. So things like that. I saw it growing up, and I spent my whole life around them, my young life around them. So we pretty much built that property. It was an amazing business for my uncle. He did great for that business, helped me out a ton. So it just helped me understand the business world, made me some money in the time being, you know, got me a job. That guy's like a dad to me. It's just, I love that man. But what I saw that was going on was I spent my majority of my time was actually managing the lot. So taking the calls, you know, especially when you have 1,300 trucks in one lot, it's a lot of calls you would get. You know it's better than anyone.
Oh yeah, phone's ringing nonstop.
Phone's ringing nonstop.
Yep.
And it's a 24-hour business too, so it's not like 9 to 5. You know,
That's
it's
right.
like you're there 24 hours. You know, we had all sorts of things like fires, break-ins. You know, all sorts of things happen.
You had an airport.
We had an airplane land. Yeah, we had an airplane land
on your lot, right?
On our lot,
like a little single-engine Cessna.
A little single-engine Cessna just randomly landed our first. It was our first roll we had built. Just landed right in the middle. He said, "Hey, you know, I had an issue with my engine, and I landed, and he got it back on. And he took off again." I mean, I don't know if that was cartel business. I don't know what it was. Yeah. But I'm like, we don't want any of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy stuff, man. We found an anaconda when we were digging up the demucking it.
Ooh.
It was like a big anaconda. It was crazy. So I remember a lot of things. It was good because I learned a lot. You know, I actually worked on stuff I would never work on, like on a Bobcat, bulldozer, whatever I could get my hands on.
Yeah.
Today I might not be able to a good contractor, but hey, I can move something around.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I was probably working there for until I was like 23, 24. I've always loved tech. So the time being when I was there, I always wanted to get into tech. When I was in middle school, I would jailbreak phones for like $100, make some money there.
Nice.
I don't want to go to jail for that. It's way back then. Statute of limitations.
We'll edit that out.
Yeah, we'll edit
that's the statute of limitations.
Yeah.
We're past that window. You're good.
So I immediately started a design agency when I was like 23, 22.
Okay.
So I learned a little bit of design for website design, and I would go on this company called Dribble, which was like a designer's website to share their designs. And I found a great designer. I said, hey, you want to start a design agency with me? I'll do all the lead generation. I'll find the pipeline. I'll find the clients. You do the work. I'll help you with some UX and, ideation and brainstorming. He said, yeah, let's do it. So we built this agency, got it up to probably like 20, 25,000 monthly recurring revenue, which for me at, 23 was like, wow. Like, I don't need to go to college for anything.
Yeah.
I can just make this money forever. I already knew I had this idea for something, which was like, how do I make my life easier back at my family business? I was still every single day taking 100 calls, running around.
Yeah.
So doing permitting stuff. That's another thing. We did the lot with no permits. So we had no permits for 10 years. Where we were paying violation fees, but it was just crazy. We were the only truck lot back then in Miami. So we were like the first ones to build this, and it was a headache. So we spent 10 years without permits until we finally got them.
Wow,
yeah. It was a Wild West.
Yeah.
So I left Swag Up. I knew I wanted to do something to relieve my own problems. That's always a good thing in the world of tech. Like if you build something to solve your own problem, you have a business. That's usually like the saying goes is if you fix a problem, you have a business. So my problem was like, hey, how do I manage this lot easier for myself so I don't have to do it every single day? So we started building the product, started getting some features out there. The first thing we did was, all right, we took about a year of development to get it done. We said, all right, well, let's do the lot that I'm managing, see if that works. If that lot works, any lot has to work because it's the biggest lot that I know of.
Yep.
Which I was wrong because every lot is very different.
Yeah.
But anyways, we launched it. We had a ton of issues. We had so many bugs.
1,300 trucks, right?
1,300 trucks, yeah. We onboarded them in about 2 months into Truckbays.
Yeah.
So imagine asking the landlord. Well, at this time, my uncle, that's a big thing I missed, but my uncle sold the lot in 2018, I believe.
Yeah.
He got a huge chunk of money. I don't know if I can say that money.
Oh yeah, it was all over. That's
Oh yeah,
actually
so it's
what,
$35 million that he got for,
Yeah.
for building something that big. But
yeah. I think did he sell it for 35 or 38 or something?
it was 30. So when we were the last day of negotiation, my uncle says, "I'm not doing it. I'm not selling it." And the guys are like, "We'll give you another $1 million." And he's like, "All right, I'll do it." And then it was 35 million.
And he owned it debt free.
Debt free,
clear everything. Right?
So he did an amazing exit.
And that was in 2021, I think, or 2020.
2018. Crossing over to 2019. So I don't know if it was like end of the year 2018 or beginning of the year 19. It was when it was sold.
Because I remember when we started kind of looking into truck parking, it was spring of 2020. And, a good friend of mine that we, Jacob Robinson, he helped me kind of co-found the company and stuff. But we were going through and reading all these like DOT studies and that sort of stuff. And Florida, Tennessee, Memphis, Mississippi, basically every state's on this DOT study, basically saying that truck parking is a huge problem. And brought the idea past my father, who we interviewed on the last podcast, brought it up to him, brought it to my father-in-law. They both said, hey, this has been a thorn in our side for decades. If you can put a small dent in this problem, you really have the tiger by the tail. And I remember reading an article, I think it was from Biz Now, but it said, is truck parking the next real estate boom? And it was your uncle's lot, not knowing that we would cross paths later.
Yeah. God's timing.
Exactly, man. Yeah, but that's really what like opened my eyes to the space. And at the end, there wasn't a whole lot of people getting into it. They were getting into the iOS at a high level, more of like leasing out yards on a
triple net.
10-acre yard, 20 acres, 30 acres at a time. Maybe it's a laydown yard, pipe yard, construction equipment. But as far as managed truck parking, you guys were kind of the first that I was aware of. I'm sure there's some other mom and pops, but that definitely put it on the map.
Yeah, we were the first to build it on a higher scale because there was a ton of lots in Miami that were just like somebody's backyard in rural Miami. Miami isn't what it was today. Back then, there was a lot of lots and land, so people would park 5 trucks, 2 trucks. So it was very different from what it is today. But yeah, he sold that lot. New company comes in. Great customers of mine already, great friends as well. Timber Hill and the NTP family over there, great people. They took over. I pretty much had pitched them, hey, I'm building this to, make things better, automate everything. They said, go for it. They're one of our first supporters or the first supporter.
Yeah.
And the NTP Miami lot was the guinea pig for us to try Truckbays and see if it worked. It was a horrible catastrophe the first month. It was a ton of, bugs, money we didn't charge, which is scary. I was like, I can't afford paying this money. Yeah. So we figured it out. But really we could fast forward from when Truckbase started at NTP to like what it is today, because a lot of in between was just like a lot of sleepless nights with just bugs, issues, payments, and devices, and all sorts of things happen, which is standard in any startup. You hear the story all the time. Like a startup starts and you only see the really nice things after they sell or after they grow to a huge number. But the everyday things, it's like every day I thought we were going to close. I thought we were never going to succeed. And mind you, I had already quit. My uncle wasn't the owner anymore. NTP was the owner. They had hired me as an employee, but I said, hey guys, I'm going to do this full time. So I quit my NTP job, quit, working at Swag Up, quit my design agency. I just had my savings for God knows how long.
Just all in.
And I was living a great life in Miami. I had a beautiful penthouse, I was doing good. I was like, oh, my life is good, I don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
You quit all your jobs, that rent looks expensive, inflation comes around and you're like, COVID comes around, you're like, rent went from $2,500 to $6,000 in Miami. I was like, oof. Well, we can't keep that up. So I moved into my girlfriend's spare bedroom. That's another one right there. Yeah. So very supportive family. She's been very supportive. Finally got out of that rut, Truckbays where it is today. It's become, a standard for like truck parking. And that's what we want to make it a standard for truck parking. We have a great team. We have great supporters like yourself and Riggies and all the customers that we have on the platform. But it was really just started as a problem for myself, turned into something bigger, saw there was a need for it, saw people were willing to pay for it, and just put the pieces together and it worked out. Thank God.
Yeah. I look back at kind of when we started this thing, we had our first lot I think we brought on with y'all was our Northeast Houston lot.
Yep.
And that one was operated how most lots are, keypads and gate clickers. Yep. And I remember when we first got, and I'll kind of tell the story as far as how you and I met, but when we first got Truckbays implemented, like my wife was appreciative because it meant that I did not have to drive 50 miles to hand a single driver a gate clicker on a Saturday at 4:00. when I should be at home with the family. But those are sacrifices you got to make when you're living a startup.
Yeah, when you're starting,
bootstrapping,
exactly.
you know. So I had all sorts of different tricks on getting these guys gate clickers. Some I met in a mall parking lot. It was like whatever I got to do to get that guy in the door, I'm willing to go the extra mile. So when you lease up a lot of 205 spots and another lot of 180 and so on and so forth, and you're just handing out clickers 7 days a week at odd hours of the day, because a trucker doesn't want to pick up a clicker between 8 and 5.
Yeah.
It's at the end of the day when they've dropped their load and they're done hauling, and it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you got to meet them. You know what I mean? Because it's our customer.
Yeah, it's a mission for them to go out to you.
Yeah. So the amount of hours of my life I got back just from having y'all implement it in Northeast Houston a lot was tremendous. And my wife is very appreciative of that. But yeah, so for us, I mean, you know, we were going through all sorts of different management software, mainly that they're mainly tailored to like the single family mom and pop storage units, right? It's like keypad access, which I never liked from the beginning, because typically even if I had individual PIN numbers for every driver, who's to say that driver wouldn't give that PIN to 10 to 12 other drivers, or his other buddies, you know? He's got a haul out in New Jersey or something. He's giving the 4-digit PIN to his buddies here in Houston. That, or you got one 4-digit PIN you give to all the drivers on site. I mean, there's just no sense of security. The gate clicker's off. I mean, that failed quick. I realized quickly I had to buy spares because these guys are losing them left and right. They want one for their truck, one for their car, one for their wife's car, one for their driver's truck. It was just this domino effect. So we were spinning our wheels, and we met with a handful of companies that they've said, you know, we've seen it all. We've seen every type of parking there is. We manage 500,000 cars in between Chicago and New York and Minneapolis or whatever. Just like they manage car parking lots, right? Like 3, 4, 5-story parking lots and stuff. But the moment we get 5 minutes into a conversation, I'm like, well, here's how a truck yard operates. They're like, we don't do that. I'm like, well, I thought you've seen it all. So the company that recommended us to y'all, I think it was
Venpark.
Venpark, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So we were working with those guys, and those guys were super awesome
Yep.
Awesome group
They
to
started
work
this whole
with.
relationship.
Yeah. They were so courteous, so kind. They heard out every pinch point we had, and they carefully considered everything that we had to offer, but it didn't align with their roadmap, and rightfully so. I get that. But the fact that they gave us the time as they did, I'm very appreciative of that. And I remember telling them, hey, if you ever cross paths with anybody, or this is ever an opportunity for y'all to get into truck parking, please let us know, because here's our bottlenecks. And I think it was the summer of 2022 where we got an intro.
Yep.
And I can't remember the guy's name at Venpark. Anyway, he called me. He's like, hey, Dave, I think I might have found a guy for you. He's developing software for truck parking. And I'm like, by this point, I've met with like over a dozen groups. I'm like, sure he is. So he's like, no, let me send you some info on him. And then I quickly put 2 and 2 together that it was the lot you managed, and it was your uncle at NTP Miami. And I was like, this is the first article I saw back in 2020 when I was looking at getting into it. I'm like, dude, it's the Godfather himself. So I was driving home from the lot, and I was like, literally, I was like a kid meeting Santa. I called you immediately, and dude, we talked for like 45 minutes right out of the gate. And I'm like, man, people don't understand like what goes, the way a trucker thinks, the way they operate, you know? And I think there's a time and place for having the brain power on the development side and the UX side and all that sort of stuff. But like nobody that I know is coming close to actually developing something through the lens of a trucker, because really understanding the way they navigate a phone when they're creating a reservation, the way they think, the way they operate, the questions they have. Because I mean, honestly, a lot of these guys think the exact same. Yep. They respond the same. They have the same types of behaviors, whether they realize it or not. I mean, the psychology of them is very similar. So I think, kudos to you for like really getting into the mind of these guys and really understanding like what their needs are. So anyway, yeah, it's been awesome. But I've noticed, since we kind of came on in 2023, I guess around the turn of that year, you got a bunch of other customers on there, which is good. So you're kind of, talk about that. You're trying to build a marketplace and stuff.
Yeah. So the beginning of the goal of Truckbays was first build a management platform. Sorry. It was first to build a marketplace. So my thought was, hey, we connect, drivers to parking lots. And we quickly noticed there was other players in the market already doing that. So we saw, well, what's something that nobody is doing, which was the management platform that I had built for myself.
Yeah.
Once we started rolling it out with additional features and talking to the people, and then you came along, you were a plethora of knowledge, just saying, hey, Adrian, we need this, we need that. And that was what we needed. We needed somebody to tell us, hey, these are the additional features that I didn't see, because I was boots on the ground in my lot for 10 years, every single day. I knew truckers by first name basis. I knew what car they drove. But it's very different when you have a truck lot in Miami where it's 110% occupancy, and there's a standard way of doing business where every other lot in the country operates differently. So building a platform that was agnostic to how you run your business is tough, because it needs to be completely customizable. In the beginning, we had this one way of thinking, which I was wrong, that, it works this way, truck parking is this way monthly, this is how it's charged. And we immediately noticed, like, wait, we're doing something wrong. Like, every time we onboard somebody new, they have a different set of features that they need. Mm-hmm. And we didn't want to be a software company where we had to charge you like X amount of money to build you a feature. That wasn't our long-term goal. Our long-term goal was, let's make this the platform for drivers, carriers, dispatchers, carriers, whoever needs parking, to go there and that be their one-stop shop to get parking with, vetted professional lots that we can work with. So we have a pretty good criteria on who can work with us and who we onboard. So I'm sure there's a million lots in the country, but we don't just allow anybody to get onboarded. And that's another thing too. We know we kind of have this symbiotic relationship with the lots on our platform, because we know that if somebody reserves spot number 23, it's guaranteed spot 23 is there. It's marked. It's visible. Mm-hmm. It's going to be empty because they have auditing. So all these things go into play where the driver knows when he goes on Truckbays reserves, his spot is assigned and guaranteed, which is...
They take pride in their spot, too, when it's numbered. Take pride. They really do.
What's the crazy thing we noticed was, when we started getting a little bit bigger, was drivers were so surprised that this was real. Like, when they would reserve and they would say the spot was assigned, we would get messages in the chat system that we have for support, like, how do I open the gate? I'm like, oh, you download the app. And they're like, what do you mean I download the app? Because they've never seen anything like this. Like, yeah, you download the app, you press a button when you're there. And he's like, are you serious? I'm like, yes, it's so simple. No clicker, no code. And they're like, what's my spot? I'm like, oh, it's the one that was assigned. He's like, that's really my spot? It's going to say that? I'm like, yes, it's going to say that. Just look for it. And it's like, wow. It's like they're just so surprised that there's a new standard coming into the business.
Yeah.
And I mean, some majority of the country still doesn't have that standard. So you guys are building this. All our customers on our platform are trying to build that network and make a better place for the drivers. So it's just incredible where when you start bringing this tech and innovation into the business, how you see how people react to it in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah. We've had we've had so much positive feedback just from drivers on site.
Oh, yeah.
And it's specifically fleet managers too, the guys that have like 10 trucks or 10 spots and they'll have 10 different drivers or 8 different drivers. Just the ease that they can add and remove drivers,
Yeah.
They got 8 guys they work with. One guy doesn't work out or gets a new job somewhere else. They can remove his gate access, grant it to the next guy they interview, get him a job, put him in a truck. It just helps them run more efficiently and more effectively as well. So what's kind of like your roadmap? Like, where do you want to see Truckbays go now? Because I know you're slowly building up like the marketplace side.
Yep.
I know, like, just merely from my perspective, from an operations perspective, it's been an absolute answered prayer for us to have this thing implemented. Just with complete ease, like you were talking about. But like, what does that look like as far as kind of the next 5 years for you?
For us, it definitely means growing the network. So working with people who have the right type of lots for us to onboard and have them on our platform and allow drivers to make reservations. That's our number one priority right now, is continue growing the network. The second priority is just polishing overall the experience. We learn so much every single day. We record our sessions for our customers to use the platform. And it's clear we record it. We don't see any of the privacy data, so no details of their personal information is being shown. We just see the pages they're going through where they click and things like that. And that's essentially my Netflix. I sit down for hours and just watch, hey, what are they doing here? What's missing? Why is they dropping off?
Like, why are they getting hung up on this one step?
Is there a bug here? Is there an error? Or how do we make this easier? So those are the things that we look at to improve. That's our second kind of ongoing effort, And then probably longer term is how do we make Truckbays additional value for our customers? So I know Riggy's is growing. Our customers at NTP and Timber Hill, they're growing in different branches, not just managed truck parking. So how do we build new features or new products for that and monetize, because we got to make money.
Yeah. Yep.
2 or 3 years in already. So we're out of the rut. So it's, thank God I could pay myself a salary now.
Yeah.
And I can get out of my girlfriend's extra spare bedroom.
Yeah.
So Yeah, it's build new products and monetize and see how we can grow the new channels of revenue.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, I mean, one thing that we kind of found out earlier, some of the groups we were talking with before we met with y'all were bringing up these ideas like, hey, how do we do X, Y, and Z? How do we make sure that this trucker can extend his stay or swap a spot or add a spot? A lot of these functionalities aren't built into car parking software, other property management software. And if it's not, they'll say, yeah, we can get it to you in 6 months and it's going to cost you $80,000.
Yeah.
With you, because you're developing this like through the lens of a trucker, truly. And I think that's what really like kind of made my ears perk up was like everything we do on the Riggy side is we genuinely evaluate every single individual parking spot, ingress and egress, multiple simulations, look at everything from cradle to grave to make sure that the trucker has the best experience while he's on our site. And I don't know anybody else that's really doing that to that level, to that detail. But hearing somebody doing it to that level of detail from a management standpoint, from a booking platform standpoint, was just incredible. And I think like one big groundbreaking thing for me was it happened over a weekend. Couldn't tell you how long it was, maybe a year and a half ago. But I remember we went through a weekend and I like checked my reservations coming in, and I was telling my wife, I'm like, babe, look at this. We just got like 6 new tenants. Not a single one of them called me.
They just did everything themselves.
They saw the website, booked a spot, got gate access. I'm looking at the gate log because you're allowed to, you get notified every time somebody comes in and out. I'm like, these guys found us, booked a spot, made a payment. Payment's cleared. They're parking their truck. I pulled the video surveillance cameras. Here's 6 new trucks, each individual owner operators. I'm like, and I like, that is awesome. You know what I mean? Half of them booked it while I was asleep.
We saw the notification for the payments coming. I'm like, yes.
Yeah. I mean, and half of this stuff is happening when I'm sleeping at night when these guys book spots. Sometimes they do it late at night. So, I mean, you're truly like, you have this ability to create revenue while you sleep. And that's so much different than having to answer the phone and having to physically meet a trucker on site and having to physically show them the yard and hand them a gate clicker and like reprogram the keypad. It's just very archaic way of doing things. So yeah, I love what y'all are doing. Super excited to see kind of what's next for you in the next 5 to 10 years. So,
I'm actually going to segue off where you mentioned of the simulations you guys run when you're building your lots. We did that, but the Cuban way, So when we were building our lot, I'm sure there were still engineers who could have done the simulations for us, but we just told the trucker like, hey, come here. And, they're like, ¿Qué hola, like we were just screaming, like, hey, park over here. See if you can fit here. Can you not hit this guy when you're parking?
Yeah.
When we were doing the 90-degree angle parking or 90-degree angle or 45-degree angle, like 65-degree angle. We were trying to figure out what angle to park. And we were literally just marking lines with a spray pen and saying, okay, this is the angle that we need to do it now. And we would calculate, okay, can we get more spots at this angle? Can they park in and out good? Can car carriers, can flatbeds or step decks get in here good? And we were doing just the Cuban way, like get a couple guys, hey, drive the truck. We'll buy you lunch, and then just park around here, drive around in the lot. That's exactly what we did when we were building the lot. And to this day, it still runs perfect. But what you guys are doing on a bigger scale, on a much more convenient way than asking a couple of drivers to drive around the lot. And
I think
see if they don't hit a bollard.
People don't understand it's so much more than just concrete lights and truck parking. You got to have a unique spot for a car hauler. It's entirely different. Everything's different from a tandem to a spread axle to a car hauler to a lowboy. Where the trailing end of the trailer hits, it's a different monster, and you got to know how to lay these things out. And
we installed
these guys,
speed bumps, these like bolt out speed bumps to try and have the driver slow down a little bit. And we didn't. We're all new to this, so we had a car carrier come in at a pretty good speed, and he hit a bump, and then where they hook up in the fifth wheel, ripped off the whole entire speed bump. From that day on forward, now we do asphalt. So you learn these things as you go. But it was the same thing when I was building Truckbays. It was like, as you go, you learn all these features, and we get feedback, and you start building it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome, man. I don't mean to keep you too long. I'm sure you got plenty of more lots here in Houston you're trying to onboard, but I do appreciate you coming by. This was a special one.
Awesome.
I'm sure we'll have you again. We'll circle up here in the next year or so and see where you're standing.
Next time we do it in Miami, we'll do fishing in the boat.
Let's do that. I'd love to create that video content. Yeah. See if I can get that one written off on the expense report.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me on the show. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.